All right, so let's get into position for the side leg lifts on the stability ball. You're going to have the stability ball supporting basically from your underarm, from under your arm. Yeah, that's right, underarm to your hip area. It's gonna vary a little depending on your height and the ball, okay? You'll bend your arm here, elbow will be in front of you, and your head can just be resting in your hands, all right? One thing I wanted to point out to you as we're getting into position, come back here, you, is that your goal is to have your torso still in a nice straight line, even though we're at a diagonal line, but it's still a straight line. We don't want to have like our hips kind of like bent here or like sticking up, right? So really try to think about keeping a nice elongated line in the diagonal, even to the neck, you know? So you don't want to be like this or like this. So just try to keep a nice straight line. We just want to have a nice neutral torso in the position, okay? Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So from there, I'm gonna show you this position right now with a bent bottom leg. You can also do it with your leg fully out in a plank, but I'll just show you this for now. It's a little more stable. So my bottom leg has a bent knee and I'm on my knee here. And then your top leg is going to go straight out to your side. I have no crease in my hips, okay? So I'm trying to keep my hips totally flat here, no crease. All right, that's my goal there. You can have your hand just here on your hip or just resting at your side. Having your hand here would help you to monitor and make sure that you're not moving your pelvis during the movement, and we'll go over that. Now, I need to show you the positioning from the side before we actually do the movement. So I'm gonna move here, scooch myself back. Now, from the side, hopefully you can see, the goal here in the position is, again, you want to have your hips stacked on top of each other vertically and your shoulders stacked on top of each other vertically, okay? So we're not kind of like bent forward or kind of leaned back. So just really think about stacking those two things vertically, and that your leg is here directly out to the side as well, so it's not kind of forward or behind. You really want it directly out to the side when you do the upward movement, okay, versus that or that, okay? So hopefully you can see that. Just head, shoulders, down to hips, all the way down a nice straight line. That's the positioning, how you wanna be, okay? Hi, I'm Rizal. If you're a woman in your over 40s and almost 40s like myself, and you'd like to do some full-length workouts using these sorts of movements, I'd love to have you come over to my website, inspirefulwomen.com. I do all of the workouts in beautiful outdoor nature spots like this. We use chill music and we don't do tons of jumping around and intense stuff. So if that sounds like your jam, the sort of thing that you'd like, come on over to my website at inspirefulwomen.com. I was just taking a little break, guys. All right, we are ready to do the movement. Okay, I'm relaxing here, so I'm not really in the right position. So remember to keep that nice straight line, diagonal line of the torso, okay? From there, to do the movement, you're just going to lift the leg, and the toe can be pointed or flexed, doesn't matter. And you can also turn the toe down a little bit to help with the activation of the glute medius, okay? Now, if you'll notice, when I'm doing this movement, it's a pretty small movement. You can see my leg isn't actually going very high, right? And that's because as you lift, there's a point where we can't really lift anymore from the hip joint without kind of tilting our pelvis up, okay? And we don't want to do that, okay? So let me just do a few now for you, and you can do them with me. Then let me show you now from the side. So remember, really try to keep the toe in line with the side of the hip here, okay? It's very easy to start bringing the toe forward during the movement just because our hip flexors in the front of our muscles kind of want to take over, and we can end up being here. So really try to work at keeping it. It's gonna, in your head, you'll think you're in line and you'll be here. That's how I do it. And then I look in my iPhone phone thing and I'm like, oh, I actually need to be here. And to me, that feels like I'm behind, like I'm, you know, putting my toe behind, but I'm not. It's actually in line with my hip. So just be aware of that. All right, so here to do the movement, it looks like this. Just a couple troubleshooting pointers. If you find that you're feeling this movement more at the front of your hips here, like in your hip flexor area, that's a very common thing. So a couple ways to kind of troubleshoot that. The first one is to try turning the toe downward, rotating the hip in its socket, toe down. Now that's different from like the toe moving forward or the toe moving back. So we're still keeping the toe in exactly the same place. The leg is in the same place. But watch, if I just turn my toe down, my heel starts coming up a little bit. What this does is it positions these muscles more on top. So now they're working more against gravity. Does that make sense? So that'll help them to like be challenged and be doing the work. Okay, so that's the first tip. The second tip is make sure that you do have the toe in line with the side of the hip. So it's so easy where all the videos I made for the physical therapist when I was practicing this movement, a lot of them I noticed that my toe during the movement, maybe it started in the right place, but then as I kept lifting, I was just gradually moving forward without realizing it, okay? So really keep it in line there. Then the last troubleshooting tip is, I know we talked about keeping your shoulders and hips stacked vertically on their sides, right, in a vertical line. That's pretty much the case, but if you're having trouble feeling it here, one thing you can do is do just a very slight tilting of your hips so that this top hip is just a little bit further over this way than this one, okay? We're not talking about a huge like lean at all. It's just a very slight tilting. And when you do that, again, it's just positioning these muscles, same idea, more on top to help those muscles be the ones doing the work. And that's it. Thanks for being with me today, ladies. Once again, I'm Razel. If you're enjoying my style of teaching and you would like to get even more details, on my website at inspirefulwomen.com, I also go into, with each of these movements, mistakes to avoid, common things, common form issues, as well as variations, ways to make the movement harder, ways to make it easier. If all of that sounds good to you and you'd also like to see full-length workouts using these movements, come on over to my website at inspirefulwomen.com.